Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity, and as I always tell you, you know how I love to turn you on to bands that you may not have heard of. And this one here, I promise you, if you haven't already heard of them and listened to them and even seen them in concert, take my word for it, you're going to want to right away. I mean, right away. Look them up. They're called Bywater Call. I was turned on to them back in March at a little gig they were doing and across the state line in Georgia, and I was blown away by them. Let's put it this way: if you're into bands like Tedeschi Trucks and Allman Brothers, and a little bit of jazz, a lot of bit of blues, things like that, Bywater Call is your kind of band. I became an instant fan. I love their style, love their music. And what was really cool is when they do some covers, like when I saw them, they did Love the One You're With. Phenomenal treatment of that classic song. If you go out on YouTube, you'll see that they'll do something with Led Zeppelin's Kashmir. Wow, blew me away. But the two core members, which is Dave Barnes, the guitarist, and his partner, Meghan Parnell, they make the nucleus of the band. But make no mistake about it, each member of the band, all seven of them, are integral to the overall sound of Bywater Call. This interview is with Meghan. We caught her while they're on a break. They're up in Toronto, Canada. That's where they live. That's what they call home. We talk about the Canadian blues scene. This new album that you see behind me, Witches Live, which is a great sampling of the kind of work you can expect to hear when you catch them in concert. And like a lot of bands, they're great on a studio album, but they're infinitely better live. So I encourage you to get both. Get the albums, see them in concert. You'll become a lifelong fan. Take my word for it. I will not steer you wrong. While you're listening to this, would you go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber? As you already know, it's not going to cost you anything, but it sure helps Boomerocity out a lot. And please share these interviews with your friends who you think might enjoy them as well, and ask them to like and subscribe too. So without any further ado, here is my first of what I hope are many, many, many more interviews to come with Meghan Parnell of Bywater Call. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care.
Nice background. Hold on.
Hey. Can't hear you. You need to unmute. There you go.
Yeah, I thought I was unmuting and I was apparently muting. Can I just take 2 seconds to grab a glass of water, Randy? Okay.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn off the TV in the background and then I'll be back.
All righty, I'll be here.
Okie doke.
All righty, where are you clicking in from?
I am at home today.
That's what, Toronto, right?
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've been there. I used to work for the late great Nortel back
Oh,
in the day.
yes.
Yeah, so I had a roughly 20-year career with them, and always loved going to Toronto. But
Cool.
it's been a while, so you're getting a little break, huh?
Yeah, we actually have a few weeks of downtime now, so we're just trying to get creative things organized at the moment.
You're going to go into the studio at all?
We're gonna try to get ready for the studio at least in the next 3 weeks so that our next little break we can lay some stuff down. Yeah.
Well, good deal. Good
Yeah.
deal.
We'll see.
So I have a good following of Boomerocity up in Canada. Got friends up there, so this is all going to be good stuff. So
Nice.
I'm just curious though, because Canada's not normally, when you think of the blues, Canada is not one of the first places you think about. And so yeah, there's people like Jeff Healey and Colin James and Sue Foley and all that. But what got you guys going in that direction? I'm curious.
I mean, the bands that were influencing us, in particular, Tedeschi Trucks, which is like not a blues band, but it came up in that scene with Derek's involvement in the Allman Brothers band, and Susan came up in the blues scene in the States. So it seemed like a good a good starting point. We were starting from scratch when we put this band together. And although Canada and Toronto are not, the first city that comes to mind in terms of blues, there is a fairly strong blues community here. So, it was a nice little home for us to start growing the project. And it's done well by us for sure, the blues community here.
Well, good. I was going to ask you that because, sometimes it seems like with blues artists, it's either really good or you're starving. And it's not very common that it's somewhere in between. And I was turned on to you back in March. I came up and talked to you. You guys were in Hartwell, Georgia?
Yeah, yeah.
Hartwell. Yeah, yeah.
Hartwell,
Great
Georgia, yeah.
little, yeah, that was a great little venue there. And you guys blew me away. I bought your vinyl album of, oh, not this latest one. It's slipping my mind now. But anyway,
Shepherd,
I
probably.
had you sign it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't see it with this background here, but I've got all sorts of signed albums. So yours is taking a prominent place on my Hall of Fame wall of signed albums there.
I
So
love it.
how, from the standpoint of the blues scene in Canada, and I do want to get to this new album here in a moment, but I'm still kind of locked in on this Canadian blues scene. How would you compare it to the various blues scenes in the U.S. and over in Europe?
Um, I mean, I think Canada's just a more difficult market, mainly because of the geography of the country. But I'd say a really great example of the fact that it is a pretty strong community here. We played the Salmon Arm Roots and Blues Festival in BC maybe a month ago. And the hang was just incredible. It was a bunch of musicians, we had passed ships, crossed ships in the
Hmm.
night a bunch. But on this particular occasion, like mainly Canadian talent, and we got to have an awesome weekend hanging with some really, really yeah, cool, established and up and coming friends. So um, we see that we see that in the States and in Europe, of course, too. But there's a camaraderie, I think, when you're from the same country.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, it feels cool.
So you feel like the investment into this niche, this genre is paying off for you guys? And I mean, was it better than you anticipated, about what you anticipated, or
I
what's your
mean, it
take on it?
depends. It depends which version of me you ask the question to. I think when we started this band, we never anticipated that we would have the opportunity to tour Europe and the US and legitimately be growing a fan base there. Um, your goals and your perspectives change and now we hope to keep that ball rolling and to play bigger venues and build crowds. So it's a combination of it's beyond my expectations and my expectations keep
Keep
moving.
growing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you guys, I mean, not only are you taking a tough genre that can be tough to make a living in, but you're doing it with a bigger band than a lot of people normally do it. I mean, I don't think everybody always appreciates how big of a take that is. And, sometimes that pie to split up amongst the band members can be pretty lean. I mean, were there times like where you and David go like, maybe we should have started with four, or something like that?
I mean, every time we play a festival and there's a three-piece band on stage and we're like, we know they're getting the same as us or maybe even more. And we're splitting it between seven people. I mean, it's a huge undertaking. And I think when we decided to add horns, I mean, we were just thinking artistically and performance-wise what we wanted. And going back to the previous question, when we added the horn section, it was before we had even recorded our first album. And we did not expect we would be dragging seven people over to Europe or in a bus in the US. So, you know, we can't back out on it now. It's the sound of the band and, we can't really imagine it any other way. That being said, yeah, if we scaled it back, it would financially that would be great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and keyboards can only do so much of the backfill if you were to move the. I mean, as a fan, it's easy for me to say because I'm not a not a musician. I'm not having to write those checks that you guys are having to do. But as a fan sitting there and hearing it, I mean, especially when caught you guys back in March, I was just like, wow, and I'm a business geek too, so I'm sitting there, as a music fan going, I'm eating this up. You guys are blowing the roof off the place. Then as a business geek, I'm sitting there looking at it and going, how are they affording this? This is tough, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. We're making it work.
yeah, well, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. As it stands now, where do you find your strongest fan base being located? Is it Canada? Is it here in the States? Or is it over in Europe?
It's probably Europe. We've been developing Europe for the longest. We our first tour of any sort was in Europe in 2020, and then we
Hmm,
were supposed to do a bunch of festivals in Canada that summer, and of course that didn't happen.
right,
And it took a really long time to kind of get back on the radar. We were pretty new when we had been accepted on those festivals. And then I think early after COVID, I think it wasn't just a Canadian thing. I think across the board, venues and festivals were nervous about taking a chance on kind of unknown projects and were kind of sticking with the guarantees, sticking with the people they absolutely knew could draw crowds. So it
right.
took a while to kind of get back on the radar. So, and then we didn't start touring in the States until we did a really tiny run at the end of 2022. So we've been touring there a lot since 2023. So I think that timeline has given Europe a leg up. They also are just in Europe. It feels like there's a willingness that people have to come out and see music that they don't know. I
Yeah,
think they're more willing to take a chance out there for whatever
like,
reason than in North America. And then they do because things are so much closer together. The word spreads faster, and people come to see us. I mean, this happens in the States too, but even more in Europe, where people come. They know we're over for a month, and they just while they're there, they make it a plan to come see us at like 2 and 3 venues, and then bring friends from that area, or spread the word and be like, they're coming to a town 2 hours away. Go and see them. So yeah, so we're a bit further ahead there, but
well, it seems like blues in general does extremely well there. I mean, talking with some of your peers like Walter Trout and some of the others, they always do extremely well there. And there's it's just that blues touring season it seems to happen. Are you finding that maybe you're benefiting from their coattails some at those places over there?
maybe I'm sure every band that's come before us who does something similar to us, has
Hmm.
helped open the door for us for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about this album. I love it. I love all your work, but this particular album, man, it just, I felt like it was bringing back memories from when I saw you back in March, And so tell me what brought this about and, how you
Uh,
did the song selection and all that.
yeah, so kind of a twofold thing. We tour a lot. We're really trying to get the good habits on the road locked down so that we can make sure that the creative juices are flowing even when we're super busy. But that is difficult to do. And while we're writing new stuff, we wanted to offer up something new to our fans for 2024. And to also just give us time to make sure that we're really putting the time into the new tunes for hopefully something new next year.
Mhm.
We've also a lot of people have just asked for it. The live experience is very different from the studio albums. Everybody
Mhm.
in the band is a jazz trained musician except for myself, and everybody really gets a chance. Like I step away, and everybody really gets a chance to kind of play off each other, and there's an energy there that just can't be captured in the studio stuff. Um, so we wanted to give people who maybe couldn't come to the shows that experience, or people who absolutely love the live show, who aren't quite getting that from the studio stuff, a chance to take that home with them. We started when that was kind of like a seedling of an idea. We put together a rig to bring on the road with us, and we started just recording a bunch of the shows midway late last year. So just had a bunch of stuff to to go through. So we tried to pick some of our better performances. We tried to pick tunes that we knew really reached people live, and tunes where the live experience is very different from the studio experience. There's some tunes that we play that are just, up and down the studio version. So we didn't think that that was really the right thing for this album.
Yeah, smart move, smart move. I know this from where I was sitting there in Georgia, hearing you guys and hearing people talk that were around me and such. Again, it was a small venue. I don't know, what does that place hold? Maybe 100, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's around that pushing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I loved it. Nice and intimate, and the acoustics were good, but the comments, people were just like, there were some there like myself who had never heard you before. And then others, there was like, yeah, I remember this, and everybody was just eating out of your hands. And the thing that I noticed, just like you mentioned, each one of the band members had plenty of spotlight time, to so that the crowd could appreciate their individual talents and what they bring to the band. And then once they had their spotlight, then you start noticing how they groove in with everybody else. And I mean, how you guys have done that, I think, is very, very good. And it's reflected in this album, in my opinion. You've done a very, very good job in making that happen.
Thank
What's
you.
your feedback so far from fans and family that have heard the album? What are they telling you about it?
The feedback's been great. It's funny because for us, it's not, we're proud of the album, but it was something we put less thought into than like writing new songs and figuring out how we're going to record new songs and that whole long, scary process. So we're just kind of like, we'll just put that out there. We're not gonna put a huge, a ton of effort into it. We'll put some effort behind it. Um, so the response coming back is great and I guess a little surprising. I don't know.
So there's a lot of people that'll see this interview when I post it, and it'll likely post Wednesday of next week, a week from today. That they're hearing about you for the first time because of me. I've been plugging some of your stuff the last few days. Which song on this album would you tell people listening to first that you'd point to as a calling card and say, look, if you've never heard us, this one song is a great calling card for Bywater Call. And if you like this, you're really going to love the rest of the album and the rest of our work for that matter.
It's a tough question. My instinct is to say "Bring Me Down,"
Hmm.
because the tune. I mean, this band is based around Dave and my passion for this music, and we put this band together. And "Bring Me Down" is just a beautiful moment for Dave, where you really get to hear what he does with the slide guitar, but then you also get to see the structure of what we do live with a lot of the tunes, where it's like you know he gets featured. Then we've got like the nice vocal. I think it's a good story. People seem to really connect with it. And then what doesn't happen on the album, which happens live, is you get this kind of breakdown and build up with Dave and the band kind of rising up, and then a vocal that comes in at the end that yeah, it's that would be my instinct, would say listen to Bring Me Down. But it's also the only ballad on on the album. So if people wanted something a bit more upbeat, I maybe Love the One You're With. It's not our tune. It's our only cover on record, the Stephen Stills tune. Um,
Hmm.
but again, we kind of try to take it in our own direction. And that in that song, you really get to hear the interaction between the whole band.
Yeah.
It's a long instrumental section, but you get the build, you get the saxophone playing off the keys, you get the guitars coming in, you've got, you know, you can listen to Mike on the bass, who kind of drives the build with Bruce on the drums. And yeah, that's a
Hmm.
good one too.
Well, mentioning that reminds me, I wanted to tell you, I love when you guys do covers because I've drilled into what's out there on YouTube and such. Love the One You're With, great example. What you've done with Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. I mean, who would have expected a good blues jam band type of ensemble to do Kashmir? But whoa, how you guys brought it in, and I mean, if you heard it, you would know it's cashmere, but yet it's totally different. You know, it's just a great treatment of what you guys done to it. And what feedback do you get from fans when they're not, maybe especially they've become fans like I did when hearing you live, they hear you do a cover and they go, wow, you know, what are they saying to you when they hear you cover someone else's stuff?
Yeah, I mean, people really connect with that. Um I do believe covers are pretty important. I think especially for a band where we are in our career, that we are having a lot of new people come out and see us, and it's a way for people to connect with us. They really like the originals we're putting out. They're just learning them, like they're
Mm-hmm.
not familiar with the songs, they're enjoying it. But then we can play something where they're like, I know this, I can sing along to it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then hopefully, yeah, and then we catch them with the original stuff. So I think the covers are important. People really like hearing them. We throw in 1 to 3 a night, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it helps mix things up a little bit too.
Very good. So, curious question. I'm sure you guys get asked this a lot, and I honestly don't know the answer to this question. That's why I'm asking. Now, are you and Dave a couple, or friends, family? What is the connection there, and how did that relationship lead to forming this band?
We're all of those things, I guess. Uh, yeah, we're life and business partners, and we've been playing music together for I don't know the exact count, but it's probably 17 or 18 years now. Um, the whole band went to Humber, which is a jazz school here, or jazz program at a college here called Humber College. And I had just started doing professional singing in a couple cover bands. I had gone away and done my first little kind of dive in the deep end tour. And when I came back, that band wasn't like really a permanent band. So I didn't have a band to play with. And I was sitting in with a friend for a few shows. And the guitar player in that band was like, are you playing with anybody right now? And I'm like, no. And he's like, my really good friend is starting a band and he needs a singer. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I went and did a little jam session with what would end up being Dave, who was the band leader, and Mike, our bass player. We're in it's a cover band, party band thing. Did one little jam with them. They're like, yep, we're all like, this works. And so we've been playing together ever since that moment. And then Dave ran that band for a long time, pretty successful event band, but we were getting pretty tired of playing party cover tunes.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, we were listening to a lot of kind of retro soul and blues revival kind of music that was really reaching us. Tedeschi Trucks, Sharon Jones, Amy Winehouse. And we're like, yeah, we got to start. We had been talking about it for a while, and we just reached a point where we're like, we have to start writing stuff. We have to start an original band, or we're just gonna kind of lose our love for performing.
Yeah.
So we kind of just stepped into the deep end and started writing music. We committed, a friend of ours was doing a little show in Toronto and he needed a half an hour opener. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do that. Now we have to have 30 minutes of original music ready for this show. And that's how we started it.
Very cool. Now, I read
Yeah.
at some point, didn't you? Weren't you on? Didn't you guys? Weren't you part of Joe Bonamassa's cruise? One of his cruises that he puts out there. How did that go for you?
So we've done two now. The first one
Oh,
we did
okay.
was 2023. We did the Mediterranean cruise out of Greece in August in 23. And it's a great experience. It's really I tell people it's the first time I really felt like I was part of a musical community was after that cruise because it can be pretty lonely out there on the road and we write very insularly right now. It's all amongst the band. We're all working that out together. And um, yeah, it can feel kind of like it's us against the world a little bit. And then after that cruise, where you have the opportunity to be around so many artists and so many fans. And then we just kept running into the musicians that we were on the cruise with. And it's like there's just this automatic camaraderie from that, which felt really cool. And then we did it, the one out of Miami this March. And, by then we had spent a lot more time around some of the bands. Eddie Ninevolt and us had come across each other several times, kind of considered him a friend at that point. Robert John and the Wreck are good friends of us.
Great
Ours,
band.
we work with the same booking agency in the US and in Europe. So, there's a bond there. And it just that kind of felt even more like there was even more of a vibe there where we felt like we were really good friends with some people on the ship. I think the vibe for our band in particular felt really amazing. We made sure we were kind of all over the place. We had a lot of opportunities to just sit in with other bands, which is always really fun and helps with the community feeling. So, yeah, we would do that any day. Any day it gets placed in front of us, we are there. It's so much fun.
Well, and you bring up something very interesting because, being a classic rocker myself, I mean, I'm about to turn 66. So I'm finally getting to meet and talk to the people I grew up listening to and, reading their histories and such a lot. So often you hear that there's been competition between bands or jealousy or, flat out animosity. And what I'm hearing more and more of the older bands, they're facing immortality, so they're nicer to each other for the most part, not all of them, but but in what I've noticed is in the blues community is exactly what you just described. There is this mutual respect. There's a community there that just they like to help each other. They want to play with each other. There doesn't seem to be any kind of angst, as part of that mix. And I mean, at least from the outside looking in, that's the way it appears. And it sounds like that's what you're saying, basically. Do I have that
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think it's the nature of the industry and musicians and artists. It's like it may be there. Like it's hard not to compare yourself to others. It's hard not to be jealous when you see, what other people are up to. But there's absolutely no reason for it to be a competition with each other. And I truly, truly believe that we can only help each other, you
Yeah,
know,
I
by
agree.
being friends and supporting each other and being happy for what, your contemporaries are accomplishing. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's the only way to be. Otherwise, you're just going to get lost in it. There's too many people trying to do it,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just enjoy the community.
Well, from as a fan on the outside looking in, I think what it does for us is when we see that camaraderie and that team player type of vibe there, that makes us interested in all the separate acts that are working together. So, if you're working with Joe and then we see Joe and we like Joe and oh, and he's getting along good with Bywater Call, I want to go and check out
Yeah.
Bywater Call and voila, I'm a new fan, that kind of thing. And I think
Yeah.
that there's a synergy there that you guys are hopefully benefiting from.
Yeah. And I have to say, like the cruise ships in particular, like I think it's really amazing what he's doing with those because it's like, on one hand, I think he's trying to bring in new audiences by some of the headliners that he's choosing. And people come for that, but then there's always space for new and up and coming acts, which is amazing. Like there's an Alaska cruise that's happening in September. And there's like three up and coming Canadian acts on that.
Wow.
I think that's so cool that he kind of creates space within that lineup, um, and in that situation for bands that can really benefit from the lineup.
Well, I've seen him more than I've seen anybody else perform, and I will say that about him. He's very good. Oh, even during COVID, he was raising money to help other artists, which I thought was a class act all the way. But he's brought out people, like Ryan McGarvey or J.D. Simo or Andy Wood, and he's bringing these guys out, and he gives them the spotlight, and there's no it's a confidence, not a conceitedness, a confidence. And you see that to where he's like, hey, folks, I want you to get turned on to these folks too,
Yeah.
and I think that's amazing that he does that. And hopefully that kind of cascades on down through the ranks there. But as a result of all these people you've got to interact with in the community, are you and Dave eyeing people that you say, hey, we'd like to collaborate on either a song or an album, a tour,
Yeah.
anything like that?
I mean, there's tons of people we would love to collaborate. I think the ones, we're actively maybe hoping to work with Eddie Ninevolt, like his whole musical aesthetic and the last album he put out, Saratoga, is awesome. He's doing amazing things, and we'd love to work with him. We love hanging out with him. Um, so we'll see. That would be cool. And then Robert John the Wreck, who are really good friends of ours. We've collaborated on stage a bunch of times, and we keep talking about finding a way to do a tune together. So I'm sure that'll happen eventually.
I love
But
those guys. Robert's a good
yeah,
guy.
they're the whole band is just like the best kind of people.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what's on your radar for the rest of the year and going into next year, next couple of years?
So yeah, a few weeks of downtime to get ourselves together, and then we're going to, I think we've got like a 2 week, 2.5 week down to North Carolina and back up. So we'll be hitting actually Hartwell, Georgia again on that run in September. And then we have a Toronto show. We play Toronto like once a year. So we'll be playing Toronto October 3rd at the TD Music Hall, which is part of the Massey Hall system, which is pretty amazing. And then we head back to Europe late October through the end of November to hit up Germany and Netherlands, Spain, UK. And
Wow.
then I think we're doing one other little week-long run in the States, and then it's the holidays. And that whole time we're hopefully going to be moving towards an eventual new album for next
Very
year.
good. Well, Boomerocity has a good following in Europe too, so I'll make sure to give them a heads up to come see you. I hope to catch you at that Georgia venue again in a couple
Amazing.
weeks. So I'll
Would
come
love
up
to
and
see
say
you.
hey to y'all if I can make that. And in the meantime, you guys stay safe. Love your work. I look forward to seeing more from you and doing a lot more of these. Let's keep this kind of thing going too. So,
Absolutely. Thanks, Randy.
all righty, man. Well, take care, get rested, and then we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Sounds good.
This
Thanks.
has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quinton Hope. Quinton is spelled Quinten, and Hope is Hope. And you can find out more about Quinton at quintonhope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and/or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2025.